The No Research About Us Without Us project looks at the best ways to share leadership in a research project with people with a learning disability. When we planned our project, we read a lot of guides on how to work together. We tested out their tips and advice in our own project. This is what we found worked and didn't work, and our top tips for future co-produced research with people with a learning disability. This project has helped me a lot because I had a colleague speak up to help me understand what the research project is about. We had pre-meetings and we had a meeting afterwards, and he would explain to me, right Jodie, this meant this and this meant that, and after that I got more understanding what has been discussed in the meeting, in the project meetings, and that has made me feel a lot better. The top tips I would like to give is include people with learning disabilities and autism, because I feel as though they're being included, you're getting more opinions, more views, and the research project will go far better than it already is.
I found that during this project what has worked really well is having a lead applicant being someone with a learning disability. So Gary and Amy have ensured that it's really accessible and crafted the meetings in a way that everyone can get involved. Also, the advocacy group, so Speak Up and Learning Disability England, have ensured that it's met with people with learning disabilities and provided guidance on the meetings beforehand and also afterwards. The top tips that I would give to other researchers that are working on this type of project would be, firstly, to design the project around people's needs and to continually learn about people and make the required adjustments throughout the project. The second one would be to ensure that projects are costed to meet these needs. So, for example, costing in the time before meetings and after meetings to meet with advocacy groups to debrief about project meetings. The third one would be, which is a very important one, is having the right graphic expertise for accessible information to ensure that the project is completely accessible.
Costing the research is so important. So my top tip would be to always pay people for the research or pay the organisation to sustain employment. This is vital.
Relationships have been a really important part of this project, and because we're all spread out across the whole of the UK, we've had to think quite carefully about how we manage and develop these relationships. So if I was to give any tip to any new project that has lots of different partners who are all over the place, then I would say that it's really important to spend time investing in thinking about how we build these relationships and really valuing the importance of these relationships for any new project.
Everyone in the project team has been really positive about how the face-to-face meetings have really helped with build relationships. But we didn't have a face-to-face meeting until about 7 months into the project. So my top tip would be to have one as early as possible. It can help build good relationships, and then that really helps improve the interaction for the online meetings.
In order to build relationships, you really have to use all the tools that are available to you. There will be emails, calls, online meetings, face-to-face meetings, collaborative platforms, and more. You have to really evaluate these tools as you go along to make sure that they're working for the purpose that you want.
A lot of guides say that you should build relationships and build rapport, but they don't explain how to do that. And yet, one of the things that damages rapport is when people don't feel valued and don't feel heard. So what we did was we built a matrix of support. For us, this meant that me and Gary met and we planned out the meetings and what would be in them. Then he made those meeting agendas and the slides accessible. He took them to Jodie and Vicky and they discussed them and they worked through what they wanted to say at the big team meeting and if they were happy with what we were going to discuss. Then we held the big team meeting and they felt able to contribute and felt heard. After the big team meeting, they had a debrief and they discussed and fed back anything that they hadn't been able to say or anything they thought. In this way, we were able to make people feel like our big team meetings valued them and they were heard in them, and that built the rapport and the relationships more. It's not enough to just go and do an accessible meeting. So my top tip is to build a matrix of support when you do this type of project.
It's been very important to be a part right from the start, because it's helped me to be involved, get to know them, and it's also been very accessible, so it's helped me to understand what this research is talking about, and it's involved me and Jodie really well, and I'm very pleased that we've got to know each other, and it is important to involve us right from the start. Face-to-face meetings. My top tips would be involve us from the start face-to-face and make things easier so we can help us to understand what the meeting is about to do with research. To summarise, our top tips are: thinking inclusion says people with a learning disability are not one group, they have different needs, and the only way to know what their needs are is to ask. The design of the study identifies people's needs, adapt and amend the project throughout, and remember accessible information is key. Cost the study properly, don't be afraid to ask what it really costs. Invest in building relationships. It takes time, but it is essential. Create support structures. One-off monthly meetings are not enough. Involve us from the start. You can only get the design right if people with a learning disability are involved from the start.